Welcome. You're watching Midland Public Library's Paper Play Family Art Workshop. My name is Jennifer Witt and I'm the Make Place Coordinator here at MPL. Today for our Paper Play Workshop, we're going to be making some really incredible larger-than-life masks out of paper. Our workshop is going to be broken down into 3 parts. First, we're just going to go over a little bit of housekeeping and preparation, getting all of our materials gathered up and ready to go. Second, I'm going to teach you the paper sculpture art techniques, so different ways of cutting, folding, scoring, and bending your paper to make really unique components and shapes that you can use to build your mask. And for the third part of our workshop today, I'm going to show you some example masks, and then you're going to get to making your own. So let's get started. All right, so for gathering our materials, you got a list that looks like this. So it tells you everything that was included in your kit, as well as everything you're going to need. So in your kit, you got one large piece of Bristol board. You also got a bunch of paper. So you got a few different colors of 12 by 12 cardstock scrapbooking paper. You got a few different pieces of cardstock, colorful paper, and patterned paper. And then you also got a couple pieces of small scrapbooking paper as well. In your kit, you also had white paper. So this scrap paper that you're going to use for practicing your art techniques on. We don't want to cut up our good paper just yet, so we're going to stick with this scrapbooking paper for the paper sculpting techniques section. You're also going to need today some scissors, of course. You're going to want some glue, and so that can be white glue, it could be a glue stick, or it could be hot glue or super glue. Whatever you have at home to work with is going to be great. I definitely recommend a stapler. It's a lot easier when you are making your mask if you're using a stapler as opposed to glue, but glue will work. You may also want some tape. I have Scotch tape, you can use whatever tape you have at home. You're going to want some writing utensils, as well as a ruler, okay? So go ahead, gather up all the materials, and then we'll get started. Now that you have all of your materials ready, it's time for the paper sculpture technique lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to show you what I mean by paper sculpture technique. So this is a board of all sorts of different paper sculpture techniques. So different creative ways of cutting and bending your paper that you can use when you're making your mask. So first up, we have different kinds of rolls that you can do. You can also make loops and curls. You can use tabs and different kinds of fringe and pleating. I'm going to show you how to do the cut and fold symmetrical piece technique. I'm going to show you how to make spirals, as well as different 3D shapes like cones, triangular prisms, and cubes. So, get your scrap piece of paper ready, and we'll start with fringe. Fringe is one of my favorite things to make. And what fringe is basically a bunch of little dangly pieces. If you think of something like a Hawaiian skirt, fringe is like the little dangly pieces on that Hawaiian skirt. And so to make fringe, you take your paper and you take your scissors and you just cut slits along the paper. Straight, parallel slits, like I'm doing now. And you want them to all end at approximately the same height. You don't want one to be super long, like this one, while the rest of them are super short. And so when you're cutting your fringe, you can do them all really close together like I did here, or you could do your fringe spaced out and far apart like this and make it a little bit chunkier fringe. It just depends on what you're using the fringe for. So for example, if you were making eyelashes on your mask, you might want to use fringe that is small, that's closely spaced together. If you're doing something a little bit blockier like a mustache, you might want to use fringe that's a little bit more spaced out, a little bit chunkier and bigger, okay? And then a really fun thing that you can do with your fringe is you can crimp it or curl it. So let's take this piece of fringe that I just made. So here's my little piece of fringe, and you'll see that I have a nice thick top block here where it's not cut. So this part is the part that I would glue down to my mask or tape down or staple down. What you're gonna do to make it a curled fringe is you'll take something like a pencil or a pen, and you're just gonna wrap the fringe all the way around and make it curly. You can see that it started to curl. And so you'll just wrap your fringe, and the tighter you wrap it around the pencil and the smaller the object you're wrapping around, the more curly, the more tight your curls will be on your fringe. So there's an example of a really tight curl, and these ones would be examples of more loose curls. Okay? So that is making fringe. Next, I'm gonna show you how to make pleats. So a pleat is basically a bunch of folds. Have you ever made a paper fan? It would be the same thing. So let me show you how to make a pleat. Make a pleat. And you fold it over. Then you flip your paper and fold it again. You want your folds to be about the same length, about the same width here. So then I'm gonna take my paper, flip it over, and fold it again. I'll take my paper, flip it over, and fold it. And then I'll take my paper and flip it over, and I'll fold it one more time. And then, unfurl my paper, I have a really cool pleated piece of paper. So you can cut this paper into strips, you could use it like a string, whatever you want. You can also make a really small pleat. Let me show you how to do that. So if you're making a small pleat, you're gonna take a smaller piece of paper. So you want one that's thinner, like this one. And then we're gonna follow that same technique of folding, but I'm gonna make my folds really small and close together. So there's one fold, and I flip it over and fold it the other way. And then I flip it over and fold it the other way, just like if I was making a fan. I flip and fold and flip and fold. And that's how you make pleats. Flip and fold and flip and fold until you're all done. And then now I have a really tight, really small little pleat. Okay, so we've done fringes and we've done pleats. Next, let's try making a curl. To make a curl, you're gonna cut a strip of paper however thick you want your curl to be. So I'm gonna start with a pretty thickish curl. You can see this is my curl here. Okay, so I just cut a strip of paper that looks like this. And then to make a curl, we're gonna do the same thing as when we curled the fringe, and we're gonna wrap it around a pencil really, really tight. So I'm just gonna roll my pencil in my paper, just like this. Roll it, roll it, roll it. So my paper is covering my pencil like this. And you can hold it, it's a little squished, okay? Then when you pull it off, you have a curl. And you can take that curl, if you grab the inside, and you can pull it apart like this to make it a really fun little dangly curl. Okay? You can also make curls that are smaller by using a smaller strip of paper and wrapping that around your pencil. So let's do that. Wrapping, rolling, wrapping, rolling. So I just rolled this guy up. I'm gonna slide it off my pencil. And once again, I have a nice little curl. See, it looks like a spiral on the inside. And if I wanted it to be dangly, I can pull it out and let it dangle. All right, so that's making curls. The next thing I want to show you is how to make a loop. So there's a loop and there are rolls, okay? So if I was to make a roll, I'm gonna take a piece of paper like this, and you can cut it to any size, so any thickness that you want. And to make a roll, what we do is we bend up the two corners and we fold one on top of the other so that it looks like a circle, okay? And then you would secure that in place. So you could either use tape or glue. I'm just gonna use a stapler because it's fast and easy, and I'm just gonna secure the ends of my roll in place. So now I have this really cool giant roll that you could use as a horn on your creation, or a ginormous nose, or a beard, or whatever you want, okay? So this is a roll, so it looks very circular. You can make smaller rolls, of course, and you can make ones that are really long too. So let's see. So I cut a piece of paper that looks like this. I could make a really teeny tiny roll. And now you can see I have a really teeny tiny little roll that I could tape down. And I could use this, like I said, as hair or horns or eyebrows or whatever. The whole point of this is that you want your mask when you're making it to look a little bit more three-dimensional. You want it to look 3D. So we're learning how to make all of these fun pieces that we can cut out of our great paper to put onto our mask. Okay? And you can also make rolls that are very small but have a big circumference or a big diameter, so they're big in the middle. So you could also make a roll that looks like this. And you could use that as an eyeball or as a nostril or whatever you'd like. So that's how you make rolls. But there's also something called a loop, and so a loop is a little bit different. So let's cut a strip of paper. Okay, and so when we were making our roll, we folded the edges on top of each other like this, right? But to make a loop, instead of folding them on top of each other, we pinch our edges together, and it makes a little teardrop shape like this. And so to secure that in place, I'm just gonna staple the two edges like so. And so these are really good for giant nostrils like this. Fun, right? Or it's a big teardrop, or it could be an ear, whatever you like. So this is how you make a loop, and you can make loops of all sorts of different sizes. All right, next up, let's take a look at how to make a symmetrical piece. I'm gonna show you what's called the fold and cut technique. So to do this, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your piece of paper and fold it in half. Folded it in half, okay? Then, so this side opens and this side is the fold. I'm gonna draw a design coming away from my fold towards the edge that opens. So let's say I draw something like this. I'm just gonna go and draw kind of like a butterfly shape. Like so. Okay. Then I'm gonna cut from the fold along those lines, but don't cut this part. You want this part to stay intact. Watch. So you're gonna cut like this, okay? Cut out my object. So there was my cut lines. And then when I open it, the object that I made is symmetrical. So this technique works really great when you're doing cool eye pieces or tiaras or horns or beard or teeth, right? So you can make them completely symmetrical. Something else that you can do, if I take another piece of scrap paper and I fold it in half. If you've ever made snowflakes crafts at Christmas, you've done something similar to this. And you can cut out shapes, whatever you want. So let's say I'm going to do the butterfly shape again. And instead of keeping the piece I cut out that's symmetrical, I'm going to keep the piece that I cut out of, and I have this really cool, like almost like a head mask. So like Magneto. You can see that you could tape this on and it would look very, very cool. So that's how you make symmetrical pieces. You cut away from the folds, right? Okay, next I want to show you how to make a spiral. Spirals are really fun to make. So to make a spiral, you're going to take a piece of paper, and depending on what you want your spiral to look like, so what shape you want your spiral to take, you're going to cut your paper into that shape. So let's say I want my spiral to be a circle spiral. Let's cut out a circle. Okay, so I have a circle. Here's my circle. To make a spiral, I'm going to start by cutting on the edge, and I'm going to cut around, and I'm going to get closer and closer to the inside. If you need help with that, you can draw a spiral on your paper. Let me show you. And then what you would do is you would cut along the line that I'm drawing. Okay? So you can draw a spiral that looks like this, and then cut along the line. So let's try that. And if you were to do this out of something like cardstock, you can actually get it to stick up. So you end up with like 3D spiraling effects. You can kind of see how my spiral is going. It's all very spirally. The spirally award. Alrighty. So there's my big spiral, but if you look at it, if it was done out of cardstock, you can actually get it to sit up just like this. And so it looks like a giant spring. Or one of my favorite things to do with these types of spirals is to hang them, especially if you do a smaller one. So let's say we did one that was about this size. Is to hang them from the chin of my mask to make a beard, because they look very beardish. And so you end up with these cool spirals. And you can make these out of any shape. You just have to draw the spiral on the inside of your shape and then follow the lines that you drew and cut them out. So that's how you make a spiral, or kind of like a little spring. All right, next let's make a triangular prism. All right, so when you're making a triangular prism, you're gonna take your paper like this, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold two pieces up like this so they touch. So you want them to touch in the center. So you're basically just folding in two pieces of paper, or folding in the two edges of your paper, I mean, so that they touch in the center. And then what you'll do is you can just cut off this edge here along the fold line and fold him over again. And then if you were to tape that, you have a triangular prism. So you can make this in any size, right? You can make a really thin triangular prism. Let's do that. So if I take my piece of paper and I fold them into the center like I did last time, and I cut off this one along the edge, and I fold that edge back over, Now, when they reach up, I have a really tiny miniature triangular prism. And I could make it really super funny, really tiny, and make one that's this size. You can see why these would be good for things like teeth on your mask, right? Very fangish, they look like a fang. Vampire. Cool. All right, so now that we've made a rectangular prism, let's make a cone. Cones are really fun to make. So to make a cone, the first thing you're gonna do is cut out a circle, just like we did with that spiral we made. So go ahead, cut out a circle. Okay. You have a circle. Mine's not perfect, but that's okay. We're just practicing. And you're gonna cut a slit in the circle that goes right to the center. You want it to go halfway across your circle. And then what you're gonna do is start folding that slit over on itself. And what you'll see is that it makes a cone. And so I would just secure it in place. And now I have a cone. And so I could use this cone, you know, as a hat for my mask or whatever. If you made a bunch of them and you made them even thinner, you could make them as ears or horns or whatever you were making on your mask. I like to make dragons, that's why I make so many horns. So that's how you make a cone. And then another fun thing that you can make are rectangular prisms. So to make a rectangular prism, you need to fold your paper in 4 equal parts. So what I'm gonna do is that folding technique that we did last time, where we folded our paper so that the edges touched in the very center, and we fold it like that. But then, instead of cutting this edge off, I'm just gonna fold it over itself again and fold it right in half. Okay? Now when I unfold it, I have 4 equal parts. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal sections of my paper. To make a big rectangular prism. And of course, all of the things I'm showing you right now, I'm doing really big versions so that you can see them through the camera, through Zoom. But you can make these as small and delicate and you know, detailed as you would like. But so you can make big rectangular prisms, you can make small ones, whatever you prefer. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to show you how to do is slots and tabs. So tabs are a way that you would secure these things to your mask, right? So this is the last paper sculpting technique, and then I'm going to show you how to make the base of your mask, okay? So for your, to make a tab, you just have to leave a little piece sticking off of whatever you just cut out so that you can glue it down. So let's say I wanted to glue down, let's say I wanted to make a snake on my mask, a 3D snake, okay? So I'm gonna start by cutting out a strip of paper, and actually I should do it this way because I want it to be long. I'm gonna start out by cutting out a strip of paper long ways like this, okay? So I have a big, long strip of paper. And then what I'm gonna do is along one edge is I'm gonna cut sections that can be folded into halves. So I'm gonna cut sections that are about the same height and about the same width all the way over, okay? Then I'm gonna fold out and then I'll fold in. Fold out, so towards you, then fold in towards me. You can see that I have folds that are starting to look like that. So I fold out towards you and in towards me, and then finally out towards you. And then I end up with this paper that looks like this. And so what I can do is I can bend it in all these fun ways, and I could make this into a big snake, and I could glue it down. So I could glue these tabs down to the paper, and I could make my snake go in any way that I like it. The other thing you can do is tabs like these So let's say that I wanted to have a rectangle attached to my mask for some reason. I want a rectangle on there. So what I do is I leave a tab when I cut out my rectangle, and then in my mask, I would put a slot. So I'd have a little slot just like this, so just a little slit, just a little cut, and then you can put that tab in the slot, okay? And then I can glue it down or tape it down on the back side, and look at that, the rectangle stands upright on my mask or on my paper. So that's called the slot and tab technique. Okay, so we've gone over a ton of different 3D paper sculpture techniques, and I will post a picture of these with this so that you can see it, okay? I'll have it so that you can actually see the picture of all of the different techniques that we just learned, because it is useful sometimes to remember and to be able to see all of the ones. But now it's time to talk about our masks and how we're gonna make our masks. So let's take a look at what those masks should look like. Okay, so this is an example of what the masks could look like. So you can see that there's a lot of different shapes, and that I've used a ton of the different paper sculpture techniques that we were just talking about. So along my fox's ears here, I have a bunch of fringe. So I have fringe to make it look like his ears are hairy. Okay, here on the nostrils of my dragon, I've done the loop technique where you pinch the ends of your circle. For the horns and this cool back piece here, and as well as for the mouth and the nose and this eye piece on those masks, I used the cut and fold technique for the symmetrical pieces. Here you can see on the sunflower here, I used the spiral technique to give them goofy glasses. You can see I used curls to make hair for my different creations, right? I used the symmetrical piece down here to make the teeth. And so you can make some really cool masks just by using those techniques that we talked about. We have a cone. Up here we have the rectangular prisms that we were talking about. So there's all sorts of different masks that you can make, but they each have a different shape. So this guy has a circle shape as his base, as his face. This guy has a triangular or cone shape as his face, and these two are both more of a square face. So I'm going to show you how to make those 3 different mask shapes out of paper. So first up, if I was going to make a circle face, I would take my piece of paper and I would draw a circle on it. I recommend tracing a bowl or a big plate so that you have a nice clear circle, okay? And so you're going to draw your circle or trace your circle. Mine's not perfect, but that's okay. And you're going to cut it out. And of course, this will be bigger, much bigger when you're making a mask, because you're going to use one of your big pieces of paper for this. You're going to use your big piece of Bristol board for this, where all the little accessories and things that go on the face, you're going to use your fun other scrapbooking paper that I provided, okay? And so once you have your circle all cut out, you're going to go around and you're going to cut some tabs that look like that. Okay, and you're going to do that all the way around. You want them to be fairly thick or big, but you don't want them to cut too far in. Then what you're going to do, just like when we were doing our cone shape, is you're going to take the slot, the tab here, and you're going to fold it over on itself. And then you'll secure those in place. So I'm going to fold it and staple. Then I'll fold. Then I'll fold. There you go. And staple. Then I'll fold. and staple. And you'll keep going all the way around until they all bend in and you'll have a circle that looks like this. So of course, when you're doing this for your actual mask, you're gonna do this much, much bigger because your face isn't this big, right? Your face is a lot bigger. So you're gonna use your big piece of Bristol board for the base of your mask. This was just a practice run of what the technique looks like, okay? Then you're gonna use all of the fun little colorful pieces of paper that you got to add the paper sculpture technique accessories to really make your face pop. So that's one technique that you can use to make a circular face shape. But let's say you wanted to make a square face shape. To make a square face shape or a rectangular face shape, you're gonna take your piece of paper like this. So it could either be rectangular or square, and you're gonna cut diagonally in from each corner. This is the one I use to make dragons, by the way. You're gonna cut in each corner like this. So that you have diagonal cuts along each corner. Then what you're gonna do is you'll fold it over. You fold one on top of the other. It doesn't matter which direction you go, it just depends on which look you prefer. And then you'll secure it in place with tape, glue, or my favorite, the staple. And you're gonna do that for each of the corners. And then you end up with a cool and easy mask shape that looks like this. Then you can build off of it. The last face mask shape I'm going to show you is a triangular or cone shape. This one's the simplest. So what you do for this is you take your piece of paper and you just start to roll it into a cone. And then once you have it in a cone shape, so I just took two corners and folded them on top of each other until they rolled into a little cone like that. And all I'm gonna do is take my stapler. Maybe. Here we go. All I'm gonna do is take my stapler and just secure it in place like that. And then voila, you can cut off this little excess piece here. You have a mask that looks like this. It's a cone shape, like a fox or a unicorn or whatever. You can add ears up here, and then you have a long, nice long face, nice long nose, and your face fits perfectly in the back there. Okay, so those are all of the different shapes that you can use for your face. And now, it'll be your turn to make your mask. So you're gonna use all of the materials that you've gathered up, you're gonna use all the materials that we gave you, and you're gonna make your mask. So, let's see. So these are some examples of masks, and these are some other examples. These ones are maybe a little bit more detailed. We have a fun dragon up here. We have a crying creature down here. We have I'm gonna call this mosquito person here, right? Down here we have a monster mustache. And over here we have a beautiful masquerade ball princess. So you can really use these techniques to make any kind of masks that you like. It's up to your own creativity. I'll make sure that these pictures are available for you so that you can look at them while you're working. And I'll also make sure that this picture is available for you too, so that you have a reference when you are making your paper sculpture pieces to add to your mask. Good luck making your masks, guys. I would really love to see a picture of them if you want to send me one. Use all of your creativity and go for it. I can't wait to see what amazing creations you come up with. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye!